It is a lot of people. All right. So, thank you for having me here today to share my experience. I would have never imagined that some of the worst times in my life would have became some of the more useful parts of it. In fact, I would have probably had no compassion before I came to the Orion Center. Who was I before I became homeless? I was a chameleon. From the age of 13, I decided I needed to become someone else. I was angry at the world and perhaps a little afraid. I wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere. And perhaps, my parents, they loved me, but they were not able to express it in a healthy way. So even though I came from a family that loved me, I decided that I was going to be a gangster. And to make a long story short, I failed at that. Right? But what I did successfully was I found something that I felt evened me out. Drugs and alcohol became an overarching theme in my life. Never mind that I had a child, that I dropped out of high school, that I accrued legal issues, that I obliterated all meaningful relationships in my life, and that I was becoming increasingly insane. It felt like it was the answer at first. Then after a while, all the guilt and shame caught up with me. I really wanted to be a good guy. I especially wanted to be a good father. But addiction had an unbreakable grip on me. Eventually, my dad was fed up with me enough that he kicked me out, and so did everyone else who took me in, until inevitably at the age of 19, I became homeless. So whatever glimpse of hope I had at that point in my life vanished. My whole world was shattered, and psychologically, insanity became all I knew. I could not distinguish between the real and the false. I felt as if death was around the corner. I needed a rock to cling onto in this hellish storm. That's how I came to the Orion Center, in a complete mental and physical disarray. Little did I know that this place was to become my rock. When I came to the Orion Center, I felt a sense that I was in the right place. My soon-to-be case manager, Abby Reichley, really comforted me. For some reason, I knew that if I listened to these people, everything would be okay. Eventually, I met Johnny Oda, who has been a mentor and role model for me ever since. They helped me navigate life as a homeless youth. Abby, Johnny, and other staff may have not known it at the time, but I really looked up to them. Up until I came to the Orion Center, I had no meaningful reference on how to live. These people showed me community, love, respect, and so much more. They pushed me and held me accountable. They empowered me to do well. They even believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Whenever I got into a jam or life seemed cold, I found I can come back to the Orion Center. It was my sanctuary, and it really still is. I mean, I love that place. Johnny and Abby didn't judge me when I came in and got honest. They offered suggestions and they gave me direction, and that was it. There was no chastising, and it was okay that I was in the state that I was in. They were going to help me get well regardless of where I came from. This was the kind of love that I've never experienced. Johnny Oda was the first person who was sober that I thought wasn't a square. I found out there was a lot more after a while. So now I had a support system in place, and to the amazement of these people, and frankly myself, I got sober, I cleared my legal record, I found stable housing, I finished my high school diploma, became increasingly sane, and gained custody of my son Elijah. He's here with me tonight too, but the courts actually felt that I was safe enough to take care of him. With the help of case managers and other supportive people, my life changed fundamentally. I let go of the past, and little by little, I became who I was meant to be. So many staff at the Orion Center have been there for me, it's unbelievable. A staff named George Lee introduced me to college. I didn't think it was for a person like me, but with his insistence, I decided to try it out. At first, I wanted to do some pondering, so I thought I should take a philosophy class. So I signed up for an introduction to logic class at Seattle Central Community College. And if you don't know what logic is, that's not pondering. It's not that. It's hard and unforgiving logic. It's things like if P, then Q. And in my mind, my classmates, they looked sophisticated and sharp. Well, I looked homeless. So I avoided talking to people because I didn't want them to know like who I was. Anyway, it turned out that I wasn't so bad at logic. I received a 3.3 in this class, and that floored me. I always thought that school was for people who had better lives. Little by little, I found out school really was for a guy like me. In fact, I found out that I like math, and that was a total left field thing. I wanted to be like a psychologist or philosopher or something, I don't know. I felt that English was way too subjective for me. In my pre-college math classes I was taking, there was no ambiguity. 2 + 2 = 4, regardless of what the teacher thought of me, what anybody thought of me. So I pursued math. I would show up to drop-in centers, at the Orion Center specifically, with pen and paper to work on my schoolwork for hours. As I became increasingly proficient in my studies, I decided that being involved in campus was important, so I gave back in any way that I could. At school, I joined clubs, and I even became an advocate for science, or in other words, a geek. People were inspired by me. In fact, when I graduated from Seattle Central Community College with an AS transfer degree geared towards mathematical sciences, I was also chosen to be the commencement speaker. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So on the day that I became 4 years sober, I spoke in front of at least 1,000 of my peers and people I call family as we celebrated our successes. I even got to let my son come up on stage, and he got to see his father do something worthwhile. Despite feeling invisible and unworthy, school really was for me. I needed the push from Youthcare staff. I needed someone to believe in me. I needed someone to show me what healthy love is. I'm not talking about romantic love, but love that one finds when they find community. Last summer, I graduated from Seattle Central. This last fall, I transferred to UW to continue my studies in mathematics. I used to talk about being squares, and now I'm the square. So. Fall quarter was an interesting quarter. Following in Johnny's footsteps, I started biking to school. One day as I was riding my bike, I received a tragic call. So it turns out my mom, she passed away. And although this was and is, and this was on the 28th of October, so this was a few months ago. And although this was a difficult time, it is a difficult time for me. I used what I learned through this whole process. The people around me taught me that when tragedy occurs, I still should navigate life. I decided that for my mom, I would continue to pursue excellence, and that's exactly what I did. That quarter, I earned a 4.0 in applied mathematics and numerical analysis, a 4.0 in linguistics, a 3.9 in scientific computing, and on one of my linguistics exams, I scored over 100%. I was on fire. I refused to let my heart and soul shut down. This process has taught me that was not the answer, and neither was going back to booze. How I deal with it today is that when I feel down, I wear a special necklace that reminds me of my mother as I go out into the world. And I'm wearing it right now, because this is kind of freaky. I know she wouldn't want me to lose hope, so I try to remain strong. Today I have much fancier problems. These are things like making it to my son's school functions or proving whether or not a function is surjective or injective. So it's pretty fancy. So although my life has ups and downs, I find a lot of gratitude. I have an amazing son who enjoys school, and he just jumped up a level in his reading like yesterday, so I was like, it's crazy. I have a life full of love and real joy, and I couldn't have even fathomed that before I went through this process. And I get to break the cycle of dysfunction that has plagued my family. Yes, I've done all the work, but without a doubt, I couldn't have done it alone. I had no frame of reference to do this alone. There's no way. Youthcare is celebrating its 40th anniversary. For 40 years, these people have been helping homeless youth, shed disempowerment. I literally cannot fathom a world without youth care, because without youth care, I'm not sure where I would be. Chances are I'd be dead, in jail, or homeless. I can tell you from firsthand experiences that services provided by youth care and organizations similar are paramount to those suffering from homelessness, especially homeless youth. These are practical reasons like showers, food, and a place to stay, but the most profound reasons are the less tangible ones. If you're homeless and you're struggling, don't lose hope. Connect with places like Youth Care and become willing to seek a change. The help is there provided that you honestly do your part. Also, if you can relate to feeling invisible, don't give up. Listen to the good people around you and believe in the process. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Youth Care, for being that rock that kept me safe during the storm.